Hi, welcome back to Ask a Monk. The next question comes from Cause. Hello, I took vows to become a lay Buddhist in the NKT Kadampa tradition, and I sometimes join my Sangha. I sometimes neglect my meditation and faith practice. How can one keep themselves focused? Is it bad karma to break vows I have been given? Okay, first of all, I'm not really familiar with the NKT tradition. I think it's Tibetan. If I'm not mistaken, it sounds Tibetan. I've heard of it. I think that's but it's nothing to do with me. But that's not really your question. Your question is about neglecting and how you can keep neglecting to practice and how to keep yourself focused. Well, I think the key is one of the keys is in what you say by joining your Sangha. It's important to have a Sangha. The Buddha said the whole of the holy life, all of the holy life, all of the religious or spiritual life is association with good people. So if you associate with people who are not meditating, and if your friends and family and the people around you are not meditating, then they can only drag you down, especially when you're not developed and if you're not strong in your own right. On the other hand, if you're surrounded by by ardent and devout meditators, then you can be expected to develop and progress in the meditation practice. So finding this community, and it can also be through the internet, but the great thing about a real life Sangha is that it's scheduled and you can meet together at certain times. One option is, obviously the best thing is real life, but if you're talking about in terms of the internet, then there's this thing called Second Life, and it's this 3D virtual reality, and it's really a silly place, but it can be used for good, and there are a lot of government and non-governmental organizations using it for profitable things, for worthy things, and one of the things is the Buddha Center. That's where I go, and you can actually go and meditate there. There's also the Zen retreat if you're into Zen meditation. There's also a Tibetan retreat center where you can go, and what it means is that at certain times you can set your little character up and take it as an opportunity to listen to teachings and then do a meditation practice or have some contact with people. But obviously in real life you're so much better off. So if you have the time, that's the best recommendation. When you don't have the option of having close contact with other meditators, then the best you can do is to set up your own routine. Make sure that you have some kind of routine so that the practices that you have, you're doing on a regular basis. They're a part of your life. The important thing is I think not to make vows that are likely to be broken. I know that in certain traditions they have you do these very profound or difficult make these vows that are seemingly impossible, and as I understand, it has something to do with the good intentions that come from it, and there's no intention that you're actually able to fulfill the vow, whether you're able to fulfill it or not. But I think if it's a vow that you break, like I vow never to tell a lie, and then you tell a lie. I mean, in one sense, it was just a stupid vow to take, because obviously you're not at the level where you can keep it, where you can be assured that you're not going to do that. I mean, I will never smoke a cigarette again or something like that. What you should be doing is striving for it, or I undertake to train myself not to do these things, and that's how the precepts are worded in the original Indian language. They're not I vow never to. They're I undertake this training not to. So if you do it, you're not you're not guilty of any broken promise, but it's a sign that you have to train yourself harder, and it's a sign of the training that's going on. You're training yourself out of it, weaning yourself off of it. Vows, I don't know that they have much place unless there are these sort of vows that are ongoing. Like I know the big vow in Tibetan Buddhism or in some traditions of Buddhism, and sorry, not even just naming names, but probably in this tradition of yours, but in all forms of Buddhism, there are certain people who make a wish to become a fully enlightened Buddha. There are some people who make vows to do it, saying that they won't become enlightened until they can do it for themselves and be a leader in their time and somewhere far in the future. And there are other people who even go to the extreme that they're not going to become enlightened until they can enlighten all beings, or until all beings are ready to become enlightened. So these sort of vows, I mean, you're safe in the fact that there's still time to complete it. There's still time to follow that vow. But I don't know. I think it's probably unrealistic to think that anyone could or should wait that long. But to each their own. I would say your best bet is to do what you can as an individual, because we're all just cogs in the wheel. We're all interdependent, and we don't have any special power to be able to control the outcome. This idea of making a vow to do something, it's based on delusion, the delusion that you have some power to change reality, when in fact you're just a conglomerate of states that are arising and ceasing, and you have the potential to move in a certain direction, but that doesn't mean you have the potential to be the savior of all beings, for instance. And of course there are differences of opinion in that, but I would say your best bet is not to make vows, but to look at the precepts that you take as being training rules. I'm training to abstain. I'm training to be free from the desire to do these things. I'm training to free myself from this evil. When you break vows, I think you've done a bad thing in making the vow, in the sense that it's a vow that you couldn't keep. And yeah, I think you've broken your promise. But I wouldn't worry too much about it, because there are far worse things you could do. If you told a lie, you said to someone, "I didn't break the vow," when in fact you broke it. That's far worse than breaking it and admitting that you broke it. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not a good thing, and it's based on a negligent mind in both senses: negligent in making a vow that you couldn't keep, and negligent in breaking it. Breaking a vow that you promised yourself to keep. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't make those kind of vows, as I said. But your question is whether it's bad karma. I mean, honestly, bad karma is made every moment that you're not mindful. We're full of bad karma. Every moment. Karma means action. Everything that you do that's unmindful. Every time you judge and react to something, that's bad karma. I mean, it's going on all the time. You don't have to worry too much about it. All it means is that it's creating stress in your mind. It's creating suffering for you. So your worrying about it is actually far worse karma than the actual act itself. But yeah, so two things I would say: find a community and stick with them, and also set up a schedule for yourself. Try to make sure that you're doing something. The third thing is not to get too hard on yourself. When you do fall off the wagon, or you don't live up to your own expectations, well, sometimes your expectations have to come halfway. You do have to improve, but you also maybe have to reduce your expectations, not to the level of your ability, but somewhere halfway, so that you're always improving yourself, and that you're not content with the way you are, but you're not setting unreal expectations like these vows. You're saying, as long as I'm improving at a good rate, then that's fine. And if I'm not able to improve at the rate that I expected, then my expectations are too high. And you can adjust your practice to make you more able to reach your expectations. But you should also be willing to look at your expectations and see that probably they're a little bit high, and we really have to go step by step and quite slowly. Another thing you could do, of course, which you're probably already aware of, is leave your life behind and go and become a monk and live in the forest. But I imagine if that was on your plate, you would have done it already, or maybe it's in your future. Something to think about, that if you really want to be focused, this is actually important. You can't do it realistically in the world, because living in the world means doing work and doing things that are unrelated to the path, and they get you off track. It's inevitably. There's nothing you can do to that. If you want to have perfect practice, or even very good practice, you really need a suitable environment, and that requires a monastic or a meditative lifestyle, which is very difficult to find in the world unless you have some financial stability or some resources that allow you to put aside work in favor of a meditative life. So I hope that helps. Good luck. And if you're interested in the practice that I teach, you're welcome to follow it as well. Again, I'm not really clear on the vows and traditions of the practice that you follow, but all the best.